words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be always pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
So, about 150 years ago, there was a ship called the Beagle. I don't know if you've heard of it. And on the ship was a naturalist called Charles. And when he got back to England, he wrote a book called On the Origin of Species. And it was a book describing how species happened and the drivers behind what was described as natural selection. And it has had an incredible impact on our understanding of a lot of things. Not least, men's fashion. You see, there was this idea in evolution that the sensible and the practical things, the things that were appropriate for survival, were what would succeed. And so men, being sensible and practical, started to dump from their fashion anything that was decorative. Women, on the other hand, because they're the weaker species, wore tight constricting clothes and high heels. Because if you can do that, clearly you're weak and incapable. So what? Now, one, that actually showed a fairly poor understanding of the way the theory of evolution operates. Set that aside. This is a science teacher and me just wanting to come out. But the other thing is that men's fashion became driven by what was described as sensible and practical. So I can still wear the suit that I got married in, and nobody thinks, well, that's just old-fashioned. But can you imagine a girl going to a prom, say, 15 years ago and trying to wear that dress now? It would be horribly outdated. It would be a tragedy of the worst fashion sort. That's affected men's psyches to the extent now when people start to describe things like butterflies and flowers, I have in my head a grumpy old man who goes, poppycock, you didn't think about that at all. That's not sensible or practical at all. So you will almost never hear me say this in a sermon again. Jesus is like a butterfly. Now the thing is, up until this point, Jesus' disciples, his friends, Peter, James, and John, they've been walking with him and they've seen a caterpillar. They've seen a Jewish teacher, a rabbi. And he's spoken to them, and we've just been reading about from the Sermon on the Mount, which is a great piece of teaching. And they've been seeing this caterpillar. Now, when you look at a caterpillar, you don't normally picture a butterfly. It's not the immediate association we make. However, thanks to our understanding of things like DNA, we know that if you take a caterpillar and you break it down to its DNA, in its coding is the butterfly. It is there. Just because you can't see it does not mean it's not there. And what we have in the transfiguration is Jesus emerging from a cocoon or a chrysalis as a butterfly. What is happening is what has always been there is being revealed. It's not a case of somebody coming along and sticky taping some wings on the back of a caterpillar and going, look, it's a butterfly. No, the wings are in there. Christ has always been God with us, even though the disciples could not see it. It's a really important thing to realize. Now, we're fortunate. We've got 20/20 hindsight. We can look back and we can go, well, obviously, he was doing these things that only God could do. But at the time, they didn't all understand that. They didn't all see that until we had this moment where the glory of God shines through Christ in a way that is particular and unique. But the important thing for us to recognize is that when we were baptized, when we are baptized, we are adopted into that family. And that's a family that does change and transformation in an incredible way. And if you think about it, that is an incredible transformation. And so God calls us to be transformed, to reflect and to demonstrate to the world the glory of God. But it's not just Jesus and a couple of his friends up in the mountain. There's also Moses and Elijah. And Jairus had read for us from Exodus, where we get, in a sense, the high point of Moses' ministry, both geographically speaking, because he goes up the mountain, but also spiritually, because this is where he engages with God. And what he does is he comes back with, if you will, a blueprint for the construction of a godly community. And we've actually done that moderately well. We have made great strides in the way humans interact with each other to make the world a better place. Now, I'm not saying the job's finished, the project's done, and we can, down tools. There is still so much that we need to do as human beings to make the world a better place. But if you stop for a moment and think about it, and what we've done for human beings, and for most, we've done a good job. My concern is that for many Christians, what we've done is we've followed the example of Moses and not the example of Elijah. Now, Elijah and John are seen as being very similar, John the Baptist. And if you want a model for the crazy prophet who's just out there, just incredibly in your face, these are them, Elijah and John. Now, what they did is they exemplified a passionate, personal response to God, lived out on a daily basis. Now, they didn't always get it right. I'm not suggesting for a moment that they did, and if you read Elijah's story, you will see some of the places where he got it wrong. But what they did was that they responded passionately from within themselves to the glory of God. And in their interactions with people, they presented what it was that God had to say into a situation. Elijah speaking to King Ahab and the prophets of Baal, and John to Herod in terms of his relationships. My concern is that so often we don't emulate that in our daily lives. And so we've lost a part of that spirituality, that passionate response to the glory of God that Elijah demonstrates in his life. So what we are called to do then is to be transformed as well as agents of transformation, as Christ was. We're adopted into that family. And we are presented in today's gospel reading, in the transfiguration, with two models of how we go about that, Moses and Elijah. Because what you have to remember is after this has happened on the mountain, and Peter wants to prolong it as much as possible, so he's suggesting we'll build a house up here for the three of you, we'll make this last as long as possible. What happens is Jesus and the disciples come down the mountain and they take the glory of God into the world. This is a missional narrative. This is a story about making an impact for God's kingdom in the world. If we wish to live into our destiny as the adopted children of God, we need to be both students, if you will, of Moses and Elijah, because we are the brothers and sisters of Christ. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.